Hi, everyone. I hope this message finds each of you so very well. I'm speaking to you from my studio in West Orange, New Jersey, and I could not be more delighted to have the pleasure of interviewing Bryan May, a highly respected breakthrough consultant whose personal journey through profound grief has led him to a life of deep purpose and healing. Bryan's career began with extraordinary success in real estate, where he sold over 300 homes and facilitated more than $250 million in transactions. But in 2021, his life took an unexpected and heartbreaking turn when he lost his beloved wife, Deborah. Suddenly a single father, Bryan left New York in search of healing and support, which began a profound spiritual journey that reshaped his life. And that journey didn't just lead Bryan to healing. It led him to purpose, with a mission to help men recognize that they are the prize in their own lives. Bryan guides men through a transformative path of self-discovery, personal growth, and true empowerment. Through his coaching programs and workshops, Bryan weaves together his sharp business acumen and deep spiritual wisdom, helping men to transcend their limiting beliefs, achieve meaningful transformation, and step fully into their most authentic selves. I'm looking forward to a deeply moving conversation with Bryan, who is joining us from Boca Raton, Florida, about the daunting personal challenges he's faced, the spiritual journey that reshaped his life, the limiting beliefs and rigid alpha bro mindsets he helps men overcome, which, by the way, everyone, I love that. I want to hear all about how he helps men overcome alpha bro mindsets. Okay. How adversity can become a doorway to deep growth, and more, for what will surely be an inspiring and uplifting interview about resilience and reinvention that you will not want to miss. Hi there, and welcome to the Grief and Rebirth podcast. I'm your host, author and trauma survivor Irene Weinberg, here to encourage you wherever you are in your healing journey. In each episode, I chat with incredible grief and trauma specialists, healers, mediums, and celebs, as well as remarkable people who have inspiring healing stories to share. If you're looking for a podcast that's both uplifting and inspiring, you've found it. Let us help you find your joy in life. Hi, Bryan. A warm, heartfelt welcome to Grief and Rebirth podcast.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure getting to know you, and just a beautiful intro. I really appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much. I always say to people, I love telling people who they are going to be listening to. I want them to understand your expertise, and I want them to understand that you have integrity and you've really done your work. So let's start from the beginning. You had this unexpected and heartbreaking turn in your life in 2021. You lose your beloved wife. And at some point in your life, I know you also had to battle Crohn's disease. So what would you like to tell us about all of that?
Yeah. So, I mean, a long time ago, like 2010, I did get diagnosed with Crohn's. I always thought something was going on. I was always a skinny guy. And I had colon resection surgery. And I had a big surgery. I was in the hospital for a week. They cut out a foot of my colon and intestines. I still take a certain medicine that I have to like put in orange juice every day. So in the morning, I'm always drinking orange juice. And it's a crazy, crazy thing. But I've been on the same medicine for a while now. Besides that, I'm on like an IV treatment. And it really taught me to be a fighter. It also led me in a weird direction because at that time I couldn't have like a regular job. After college, I graduated with business information systems, and I was in charge of like a computer center for a big laboratory. I couldn't do it because of the whole stomach thing.
And the stress must have been, you're in a really stressful job too. That adds to the stomach thing.
Yeah. And I ended up going to a more stressful thing, which is real estate. And so, but it allowed me the freedom, it allowed me to jump around and do things. So that was like the first comeback that I've had. And then I basically did very well with real estate. It was it was probably a bunch of 5 years, give or take. And then I opened up my own brokerage with partners. And it's just been a crazy journey. Long story short, it's a great story. I was in this office, my office, and we had workers and we had people and we had real estate agents, of course. And one of the girls ended up forging a check. And one of the girls in the front knew about it. She didn't do anything, but she knew about it. So basically they had to be kicked out. And I was dating very seriously at that time. This was like 10 plus years ago. So in my mid 30s. And I was dating with intention, and we had to hire someone fast. And the person that we hired was Devora. And that was the beginning. And it's funny because I was on the apps back in the day and all that stuff. And I ended up meeting her in real life. And it was just a beautiful kind of thing.
Because as we would say in the Jewish world that we both belong to, certain things are beshert and they're meant to be. And there she was, right? The other thing I'm getting from what you've been through is you didn't even know it that when you were starting your spiritual journey, you were forced from a very early age to accept things that you couldn't control. There's a certain acceptance. I'm sick. I don't like this. I have to go through all of this. And then eventually you lost Devora. So what would you like to tell us about that? How long were you married?
So we got married. We met in 2015. We got married. She grew up in Crown Heights, so she grew up in a very religious area. We got married in 2016, and then she passed in 21. And so Max, my son, was born in 2019, and she passed basically when he was 1.5. And it was just, it was so crazy, and it was so out of this world that I think everyone grieves differently. And that's one of the more important things. You watch movies and what happens? They have the coffee cup, they hear about the thing, they drop the coffee cup, they break down right in front of everyone, and the scene is over. For me, it wasn't like that at all. It was like I was very numb. I was very like still, I don't know, doing stuff still. And it was like this slow process of grief and just going through it in a totally different way.
So now you started, but what led you, which I would tip my hat to, what led you to start exploring self-improvement, spirituality, healing modalities? I mean, a lot of men especially would never do that. Open myself up and be vulnerable and do this. So tell us about
Yeah.
that part of your.
So I feel like I've always been a sensitive person, like we spoke about, you and and I feel like I was always connected to the Jewish religion. My grandparents were kind of religious, and I wasn't always religious. And it was one of those things that I just liked improving. I always was like, this is a fun thing. I get to test my boundaries. I get to really see what's out there. I like being vulnerable. I like doing inner work. I like looking in the mirror. And so Devore and I actually had a beautiful trip to Sedona, Arizona. And that was probably the first like real spiritual experience that we had. And I love Sedona.
I do too. I've been there too.
I want to go back soon. It was such a great, I would love to bring my son there. And then when she passed, it's like look, there's no atheist in the foxhole. And so when things happen, that's when you turn to God, and that's when you turn to spirituality. And that usually is like a light goes off. And I tried many different things. I tried hypnosis. I tried shamans. I tried breath work and so many. I had a shrink. I had whatever it could be.
You did the traditional and you did the non. I followed the same path as you, Bryan. When my accident happened, I went to life transition coach. I was also going to energy healers. I started, where can I get some help? Bring it on.
Yeah, and a good friend of mine who's a newer friend actually graduated with a master's or PhD in metaphysician. So he also helped me, whether it was EFT tapping, whether it was so many things. I got into IFS. I don't know if you're familiar with that, internal family systems. I got
No,
into
but tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so IFS is a beautiful thing. I highly, highly recommend it. And what it is that you're talking to your parts of your body as if you're at a dinner table.
Oh, that's cool.
And you're breaking things down. So it's like, where do you feel the sensation in your body? And so, like, for me, I feel it a lot in my chest. That seems to be the place for me. And it's like talking to that part of your chest and talking, like, most of the time for people, it's a form of protection. It's like the ego. It's trying to protect you. Something happened, someone made fun of you, or something transpired, and then this protection mechanism was activated, and now it's no longer serving you, and you have to figure out how to unwire it, because this whole process of healing is an unwiring process. Everyone says rewire, it's actually unwire, because my son and anyone who has children, nieces, nephews, whatever, they're great. It's the fact that they're adopting beliefs from other people and they think it's real. And like, you know, the idea of triggering, right? Like, perfect example, if I tell you your blue hair looks really bad, there's going to be nothing. But if I say something and you believe it's true, that's where the trigger takes place. And so you need to look in the mirror and say, why do I think that's true? And is it true? And then if it's true, do I want to do something about it?
Cool. And
Yeah,
that leads you to other ways that you can explore healing. Now, you went through all these healing modalities. They lead you to healing and to purpose. And you
yeah,
even were able to connect with Devora through a shaman.
correct.
So, were you conscious at the time that you were doing all of this and you building up your own knowledge about how you could help other people, or were you just in the experience, and then one day the light bulb went off and like, wait a minute, I'm getting relief. I'm reframing things differently. Had that, and when you connected with Devora through a shaman, were there any special messages or anything that you got through
Yeah,
that
I
too?
mean, I always like helping people. My background is pretty much business in Brooklyn. And so one of the things that I like to do is I always feel like business people need more spirituality and spiritual people need more business. And it's connecting it, because I love talking about 4D, 5D, Abraham Hicks, vibration. I could go down that path all day long, but we're in 3D. When I go to the store, I went to Publix this morning, I had to pay for my groceries. We have to pay for gas. We have to do things in the 3D world. We have clothes. So, yes, if you're too Abraham Hicksy, it doesn't really help in the real world. And the other thing is, I don't like the over happiness, the overjoy. Like, the seeking joy doesn't get you healed. Doesn't mean that's bad, and it doesn't mean you shouldn't seek joy, but the pain is where the motivation and the growth happens. And it's like, I'm very anti a lot of these manifestation things on YouTube, because no one out there can manifest a six pack. No one out there can manifest muscles. So it's like, we have to concentrate on the 3D world because we're here. That's our job here. Now we have to incorporate. And so it's this happy balance.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And everything is a balance. But how did you, so talk about balance. Perfect segue into my next question. How did you balance being a father to your young son, maintain your professional career, and start moving forward with personal healing? How does a person do that? They say, Bryan, I have to wake up in the morning. I have all these responsibilities, things to do. I'm overwhelmed. How did you find balance with all of that? And you're still grieving your wife.
Of course. When I had this shaman experience, and I had a few, it was the first time was with a shaman that I know in Florida. And it was a very good experience. Like, I felt connected to Devora. She wasn't like talking to me or sending me messages per se, but I just felt her aura around me. And then I did something called bufo, which is it's a toad venom. And so you smoke it, and it's like DMT. If you're familiar with DMT, it's like Mike Tyson actually talks about it a lot. If you Google Mike Tyson Bufo, you're going to get cool Mike Tyson videos. And it's basically a near death experience, which is something that you are a big fan of and you know a lot about. And
I've experienced it.
so, like, most people think of like my background, most people think of tripping and stuff like that. And it does do that initially, but what ends up happening is you kind of go into like a whiteness. You just go into everything is just, you basically rebirth. That's what it is. It's a rebirthing. And when you come out, it's like the first thing, first of all, it's cool. I was on a beach in Florida. It was a beautiful day. It was me, three other guys. The shaman this time was a woman, and my shaman was there. He was one of the three guys. And when I got out of it, the first thing I did was hug the tree, which is funny because they always call hippies tree huggers. And I literally hugged the tree because it was like coming off a roller coaster where you're just like, you want to lay on the ground to know that you're safe. And I saw, like, if you can imagine the sun, I saw Devorah's face as the sun. And as I was coming out of it, which is like a 15-minute experience, it was like I just started going from Devorah's face to orange, and everything was starting to become orange. And then I woke up, I hugged the tree, I ate some fruit, I went in the water, and it was just an eye-opening experience. And I always knew there was more out there, but it was one of those things where I was like, whoa, you don't know what you don't know, and there's even more out there than you think. And look, we do microwaves, we do cell phones, we do Zoom. We know that there's something here. Like there's so many things here, but we don't necessarily look at it in a spiritual way. And it's one of those fascinating things. And then as far as, you know, life moving forward, taking steps, sometimes I view myself as like a soldier in war that's been shot, been stabbed, my foot is broken, and I'm just slowly keep going and slowly keep going. And for me, because I had such a young son, I had to go to the beach. I had to be a fun person. You know what I'm saying? And it allowed me to have a break where I think a lot of people go into a dark room, they shut everything off, and they just sit there. And I don't think that that's wrong. But because of my situation, I couldn't do that all the time. And it kind of broke it up for me. And then really,
in a way, he nurtured you because you were getting such unconditional love. That's very comforting.
Yeah. And the tipping point for me.
And motivate you probably to do your healing because you wanted to be a healthy parent for him.
Yes. And it motivated me actually to get more physical because what was happening, I was carrying him all the time and I was switching arms and we were going to the beach a lot. I actually moved right onto the beach and I started realizing I was getting in shape from carrying this kid. It's like if you carry a rice bag with you everywhere, you start getting jacked. And so then I started going to the gym because I was already getting in shape. And that was also like a somatic thing. I didn't view it as somatic at that moment, but, trauma gets trapped in our bodies and we have to release it. And, I have so many different stories, but it was interesting. The week after I did the Bufo, I helped facilitate another Bufo ceremony where I didn't do it, but I helped. And it was all women. And it was something insane because there was a lot of women. It was like 13 to 15 women. And I saw every mutation of this Bufo to the point one girl was literally having orgasms and one girl stood up and was like, what the fuck is going on? What are you doing? What'd you do to me? And everything in between. And it was insane because with me and the three guys, it was more of like a even keel kind of situation, So you see all these things and it's crazy, but after a while, I was like, I looked for more. I did a lot of reading. I got into psychology. I got into Kabbalah. I got into different ways.
And Kabbalah talks about past lives, reincarnation.
Yes.
Did you believe in that before?
Not as much as I do now. Definitely not as much. I definitely believe that there's souls out there. My son he has such a crazy mind because of all these things that we've gone through. He's such an amazing mind. And it's like, he sees a picture of Devorah when she was pregnant because I have this TV with photos. And he was like, oh, I wasn't born yet. I must have been in heaven. And how true is that?
He's right.
I was walking with him a couple of weeks ago and he was like, I figured out what God looks like. And I said, okay, what does he look like? Well, he's got the face of Baby Yoda, but his body's much bigger.
Better than the old man in the sky with the big white beard.
Absolutely. And then I really want to help people. I always help people with business stuff. And I just saw that this bridge between business and New York City street smarts and New York City business smarts. And I worked in Wall Street for a little while. It just was not connecting with the spiritual, and I just felt like I could be the bridge. I could be the gap.
Okay, so now you go through all of this and you decide you're gonna be a bridge. So talk to us about how you combine coaching with the metaphysical practices, because you obviously take the psychological stuff too. You combine it with the metaphysical practices. Is what I love more than anything is that you work with men. So you assist your male clients to
Yes.
become authentic, and you're helping them overcome those rigid alpha bro mindsets. So tell us about the alpha bro mindsets you help them overcome, and how do you get to these guys who come in macho and what is this stuff you're trying to do with me? How does all that work? What do
Yeah.
you do?
So, I help two different kinds of men. I help the alpha bros and I help the, let's just say, lack of confidence bros.
And they open themselves up to you? Or
Yes.
are they usually spirited to you through the women in their lives, or they find you and they really are open to getting
It's a
help?
combination. It's a combination. A lot of times I'm dealing with people that they're fed up and or something happened and they're looking to go to the next level because I'm very into hypnosis. I have a business partner that runs a hypnosis. His name's Cody Vital. And it's just, you have to be ready for it. If you think you're driving a Ferrari and you're in a Honda, your brain isn't going to believe that. And you have to really want that. It's like if someone's smoking cigarettes, they have to want it. When the doctor tells them that they're going to get cancer, or God forbid they do have cancer, the light bulb has to go off. I can't wrestle someone to the ground. I'm not wrestling anyone anymore. I'm not wrestling anyone anymore in sales either. It's like you see the value, you don't see the value, no problem. And I just think that when people come to a point, and listen, a lot of times it's my relationship is gonna be over. Like my wife or girlfriend can't deal with it anymore. That's a big one. Health is a big one. People dying, parents dying, different family members dying. And it's about looking inside to get the authentic self because the alpha is using insecurity and they're overcompensating usually. That's their protection mechanism, right? And so they're overcompensating in certain ways because maybe they feel weak inside. Maybe it's something where they just feel they need to do this in order to get around the world.
Maybe it's something they've been taught.
Yes,
A lot of right? I mean, isn't that true? A lot of guys have said, "Big boys don't cry. Big men have to be tough."
absolutely. I mean, I have clients that are in the UFC, so it doesn't get tougher than that. And so what happens is then the other guys, the ones that are, let's say, more timid or afraid, they need to step into their power. Where the other guys, they think they're stepped into their power, but it's not their real power. And they don't realize that when they get in touch with themselves, the women, if they're single, their partner, if they're not, you will actually bond way more. There will be a connection that is so much stronger, not only physically, but spiritually.
That's beautiful. So these guys actually come in touch with their limiting beliefs?
Yes.
They actually are able to open up to their hindering their own growth? So is there a way you help them question those limiting beliefs? I mean, you sit there and say, "You believe this stuff?" Or how do you go about not only do they question it, but then you help them reframe it, which is what you're talking about here, to enhance their possibilities. So how do you approach them and work with them?
A lot of it is about breaking bad psychology. A lot of it is about having like perfect example. Let's say it's a guy and he's a tough guy, quote unquote, and he's in a relationship and there's problems. I'll just say, like, tell me what's going on? What are the challenges? How does it make you feel? What is she doing that's causing it? And what it is, a lot of times is people want to point fingers. People want to label. Oh, you see this all the time. They're a narcissist. They're a bully. They're this. What I have learned is that when you label someone, you're playing a victim. Now, the problem with the word victim is people hate that word. And so I'm not calling you a victim. I'm saying there is part of you that is acting like a victim. I don't consider myself a victim. At the same time, I have found certain things in my own life where, oh, wow, I'm actually didn't even realize, but I'm playing a victim in that specific role. And so by them telling me what's going on, then I'll ask them, well, what do you want? What's the goal? Where's the ending? What do you want to see? And if they tell me, well, I want to be in a happy relationship, I want to be closer with my kids. Okay, so what's stopping you? If you were close, if you had this perfect thing, how would you act differently? What would you think differently?
What would have to be discarded for you to achieve this goal?
It's reverse engineering. And then when we get into patterns, then when they say something to me like, well, my wife is controlling, then I say, well, what did your childhood look like? And then, well, they don't even realize it. And I'm making it super simplified, but then they'll be like, well, my mom did X, Y, and Z. Would you consider that controlling behaviors? Yes. Do you see a connection there? Yes. Okay. So we're reliving our unmet needs or we're reliving a familiar need. So it's one or the other. It's like two brothers have an alcoholic father. One of them becomes an alcoholic. One of them never touches alcohol. There's a lot of DNA and there's a lot of environment, nature versus nurture, and how much you want it.
And there's a lot of choice. Like what I'm hearing is these guys, which is wonderful, are actually choosing
Yes.
to transform their lives, and they're not putting the blame on everyone else. They want to know what they can do in their own lives to shift that. So give us an example of some guy who came to you with mega issues and how you worked with him and how he turned his life around.
Sure. So, like an alpha bro story would be this person came to me. He was in the UFC. He's a professional fighter. And he was in
For people who don't know what that is, UFC is?
like basically the big fighting where it's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Dana White owns it and Ultimate Fighting.
For some of the girls who are listening, we need to define that.
No problem. Sorry about that. So, he was in a relationship and it turned out that she was being very toxic. It also turned out that he was also being a little toxic himself. And so one of the things was, hey, we can't control her. We don't want to manipulate. And I'd even say this with other people, like, we don't want to change other people. We want to change ourselves. And so things that we could do, and it's easy to talk to sometimes, it's easier to talk to the alpha guys because they're usually already disciplined. They're usually already concentrating on what they eat. They're usually already concentrating on certain things. So it's like, what can you control? Instead of saying she did this, she did this, she did this, what did you do? Because I can't stop her from doing that, but me and you are talking. What steps can you take? Because everyone wants to engage. And a tough guy, an alpha bro, a guy with a bigger ego, or a guy that is just like wants to wrestle, they love engaging. And they can't even imagine a world where they're above it, where they're viewing it. And so these are the guys that on the upper spectrum are like, you're in a bar and you tap them on the shoulder and they want to fight you, right? And it's like, one of the things that I'll say to people is like, hey, if you're in a car and someone swerves in front of you and cuts them off, of course there's going to be a trigger. Of course you're going to be like, what the? But maybe it's diarrhea. Maybe he just found out his wife is cheating on him in the morning. We don't know what's going on, but let's be above it. Because if you had $1 billion in your bank account and you had the best life in the world, would you waste your time pulling over someone in a Honda Civic and beating the shit out of them? Probably. I would hope not. I would hope you'd be like, hey, I have all this cool stuff. There's no reason to engage. Like, just go F off and live your life. Good for you. And so it's about not engaging and viewing it as kind of like a movie-ish and being above it.
Kind of being a witness to
Yes.
what's going on and then figuring it out. So, okay. So he was an alpha guy. He had a relationship problem. You're working with him. How did you help him turn these difficulties around to turn and what happened to him? Did the relationship improve? Did he break up with her? Did it help reframe his job? How did that change his?
So in this case, he ended up breaking up with her and they did want to work it out and it just didn't happen. And as he was raising his awareness and he was raising his vibration, he realized that the girl was a little bit too narcissistic traits. Listen, only 4% of the population is a true narcissist, but she had traits of narcissism. She had traits of controlling. She had traits of things that he no longer wanted because he was no longer engaging and When she said X, Y, and
So
Z.
from the witness standpoint, he realized that there were things about her that he no longer wanted.
Exactly. Because he realized that she was doing a lot of things his mother was doing. And he realized that that's no longer an unmet need of mine. That's no longer something I want to loop. That's not a pattern I want to continue. And now he's in a great relationship. He's in a great relationship with someone who's awesome, and they're both working on themselves. And it's just a beautiful thing. I still speak with him often, and it's a great thing because it changed his whole life. Like, he was a guy that was just like wound very tight. He was a guy that would just engage with everyone in a negative way and looking for trouble. And when you look for something, you find it. And so when you look for love in the relationship, when you look for a connection, you're also going to find it.
It sounds to me like you also put him in touch with who he was as a person and what his needs really were.
Oh, yeah.
Because, it's not just about being attracted to someone, it's about processing more. You're changing the way you're changing his mindset.
Yes. I do a lot of timeline therapy as well.
Talk about that.
Yeah, so it's a form of hypnosis or NLP, but it's not like you're going into some crazy trance or anything like that, but you're going back in time and you're finding an event that happened where this thing started that you're looking to change. The craziest part about it is people are like, "Well, I can't remember." No problem. Don't even worry about it. But just tell me what you see. And even if you see that you're in Scooby Doo, even if you see something that doesn't make sense, you're on top of a mountain, but you didn't grow up on a mountain, it doesn't matter because that thing is what your subconscious mind is showing you to teach you how to go through the next level. Like in Kabbalah, it would be a tikkun, a soul correction. And so you need this to do the soul correction. And then we come back in time. We basically change the event. We remap the event, and then we view it from a standpoint. We go in, we see how we feel. Where's the energy? What does it feel like? What color is it? How is it making you feel? Is it making you feel powerful? Is it making you feel weak? And we work on that. And then we even go into the future and we're like, well, how would this look if you don't make the change? You're going to be divorced. You're going to be by yourself. You're going to end up finding someone else who's exactly the same way in a different form. And it's going to keep repeating and repeating and repeating. And the other way is you're going to go through this heartbreak. You're going to do this. Maybe you're going to fall back in love, whatever it
And you
is.
may be grieving it, and I can help you with that too.
Exactly. And whatever it is. And it's about having that aha breakthrough moment. It's about having the breakthrough moment. And you know what? It's mostly when someone wants something, they do it. And what I've realized is the why is the most important thing, not the how. Because think about, like, I like thinking about tangible things. If it's like, okay, I want to lose some weight, probably not strong enough why. But if you go to the doctor and he says, you have a medical condition, if you don't change, you're going to die earlier than you want, that is the why. And so when you have that strong why, when you have those days that you don't want to go to the gym, or you have those days that you're not feeling it, or you really have pain, you're going to push yourself because you can see the why is more important than the how. And so when people don't have a strong why, they usually just stop in like if I asked you to run on anyone, they'd probably stop in a half a mile. But if I said, hey, a family member's kidnapped and you need to run 10 miles, they'll be able to do it. And so you could always 10x yourself when you have the correct why.
Okay, so now that you've told us all about how you do it, what you do, tell us about your coaching programs. I know you have workshops. You have all these real world tools that you use to help them embrace their authentic selves. Let it rip. Tell us what you do there, Bryan.
So, it's one of those things where if you think about rock bands, if you think about bands in general, and you think about audiences, you need to play for the right audience. And if you're playing for the wrong audience, people are going to tell you things like, this is stupid. This doesn't work. I don't like the way it sounds. It's too much money. I don't get it. And so if you can imagine Metallica, who's the greatest band of all time, and you can imagine Taylor Swift, who's probably the number one artist of all time, give or take. If I switch the concerts, they're going to be very disappointed. But these are both massive people. Metallica sold 150 million albums. Taylor Swift, I don't even remember. And so it's not that Metallica sucks, it's that they're playing for Taylor Swift fans. And so when you're yourself and you stop caring what other people think and you stop manipulating people and like, well, what do they want me to say? When you're on the date with the girl and you're like, well, I'm going to say I like flowers because I think she likes flowers. No, because you're manipulating. You're
Not only
not
that,
being
then you end
yourself.
up with her and you really never liked flowers, and now she's pissed off at you.
Well, you know what? Everyone, this is the thing, and it's so funny that you say that. Everyone always asks, do they like me? And then what happens is 3, 6 months later, 3, 6 years later, they realize, oh shit, I actually don't like them. But they were so focused if they like me. Oh, am I the person? Are they going to pick me? Are they going to pick me? That you forgot to ask yourself if you like them. And it's just like a kid with a toy. If you take away the toy, they want the toy. If you make him play with the toy, he doesn't want the toy. If a friend comes over and grabs the toy, they want the toy. And it's just, we have to get out of those loops. We have to get out of those patterns. We have to be above it. And like I always say, your people are your people. If you're quirky, be quirky. If you are a tough guy, still be a tough guy, but also you should not be fighting people in a bar because they touched you or looked at you the wrong way. And so we want to be ourselves, and we also want to create our own lanes. Guys come to me that are the opposite of alpha bros, and they want to date women and they don't know how. They want to get a raise and they don't know how. They want to be better in sales and
So
they
you
don't know.
also help them with courage, and
And that's the word. I don't like act as if. I don't like fake it till you make it. I like courage. Everyone wants confidence and everyone is wrong. Confidence comes after courage. When you have the courage to do something, like let's say go up and talk to a girl or go online and do a profile, it takes courage. When you do it over and over again, the law of reps, now you have confidence. So everyone's waiting for confidence, and that's why they don't have it. Because unless you do the implementation and action, you're never going to get the confidence.
so now do you gather men in workshops? Do they actually open up to each other, or it's more of a private thing? I know that you have these coaching programs. This is one-on-one, and I would imagine you do a lot of things online also. So what exactly?
So usually I do one-on-one. I feel like for most of these guys, they'll open up with a group, but they won't open up to the level that I need them to open up. And I'm very good with making people feel comfortable. I'm very good, like, because the fact is, I just want to help. You have this goal in mind, and I'm here to get you to the goal. But I'm your doctor. I'm your surgeon. I need to see what's going on. And so how many times do people see a therapist for years and then they start lying to the therapist because they don't want the therapist to know that they really went back with the guy or they really started the drug again or whatever solution they have? Because addiction is really solution, right? And so sometimes you need to really have someone who's just coming in there, new person. Let's lay it all on the table. This is a judgment-free zone. And let's figure out what the real problem is. Because you don't have an alcohol problem, you have an alcohol solution. You don't have a drug problem, you have a drug solution. You don't have a sex problem, you have a sex solution. You're soothing yourself. So we have to figure out how this started and then reframe it, understand what's happening, where is it coming from, and then listen, sometimes it's going to be like touching a stove. Sometimes it's going to be immediately wiring the brain. You touch the stove, I'm never touching the stove again. Sometimes you're going to have to spend the rest of your life looking in the mirror every morning and remember and reminding yourself who the F you are. And some things are in spirituality and self-help are going to come like the stove, and certain things you're going to have to do it like that. And it's like, even with affirmations, which I could go in or out with, you don't want to lie to yourself because that's also being inauthentic. If you're not rich and you're going in the mirror saying, I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich, it's not going to happen. But if you say things like money is flowing to me, I am getting wealthier every day, everything I'm doing is amassing certain money, and then all of a sudden you find a penny on the floor, bingo. Like, so you have to be grateful. And honestly, my number one modality, my number one thing is gratitude.
I couldn't agree more.
It's the most important thing. And a year ago in May of last year, I also lost my mother. And they both, Devore and my mother, Carol, died in the month of May. And it's also Mother's Day in the month of May. And my son is like, I hate
And your
Mother's Day.
last name is May.
And my last name is May, which is the irony of my life. And it's a crazy thing. It's a crazy thing. But you have to be grateful for the experience. We're human beings living in a spiritual experience, and we have to be grateful for, instead of thinking about, oh, well, I was supposed to age with Devora. I was supposed to do all these things with Devora. Yeah, but that never happened. You see what I'm saying? So now you're living in a fake future. And or maybe you're living in a fake
Or you're
past.
living in lamenting instead of moving forward to be able to say, maybe I learned certain lessons from this experience with Devora, which are taking me into the rest of my life.
Yeah. And you have to be grateful for the experience. And you have to understand, like in Kabbalah, in life, these things are for the betterment of your soul. They're for the betterment of you. But that doesn't mean that just because this incident happened, your soul is going to rise. You have to understand that that happened for good. And it's more than just, okay, like whatever's supposed to happen is supposed to happen, or okay, there's a good thing. No, like you have to know that I'm grateful for what happened. I'm even grateful for the things I couldn't control, and love the time that you had with them. Love the experience. Obviously, I have a son with divorce, so it's like a constant reminder of it. And it's just a beautiful thing when you do that. And it's hard for people to do. It's very hard. It's much easier to say than do.
Well, they have all these expectations and all these things that were supposed to happen instead of saying, this is life. And now what do I do with this? What are my choices here? So I'm hearing you're more on one-on-one coaching than doing workshops. Is that correct?
That is correct. I usually do one-on-ones. I'm thinking about doing some groups. One of the person I work with that does hypnosis, strictly hypnosis, he does more group stuff. So sometimes if people want group stuff, I do, refer them to him. But I like one-on-one stuff because I just want to go in there, and I do think there's value to groups. You hear someone else, and sometimes you can get a breakthrough by listening to someone else. But I feel like the real work is one-on-one.
Okay, so do they start with a discovery call with you?
Absolutely. So I do, for your guests, your listeners, I'm definitely going to do a free discovery call. We'll go over exactly what what they experienced, and really where they want to go, and see if there's a fit. And if there's not a fit, I know so many people, I could definitely
That's
point them in the right
fabulous.
direction.
And we'll put a link in the show notes so that people can get a hold of you and set up that discovery call. That's great. And what is Bryan's message about the importance of healing that he'd like to share with our? Why do you want to drop that backpack that you've been carrying around with all those lousy mindsets and change it?
Yeah. There's a story about these two monks, right? So the opposite of an alpha bro is a monk. So there's these two monks, they're walking around, it's probably 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, and they come to a waterbed, they come to a river, and there's a woman there, and she's wearing this long dress, and she says to them, I can't go across the river, I'll get my dress wet. So one of the monks say, well, jump on my back. I'm going to go there anyway, and I'll get you across. So they go across. He puts her down, and he says, have a great life. And she says, thank you guys so much. You guys have a great life too. 2, 3 hours go by. They're walking. And the other monk turns around and says, I can't believe you picked up that lady. We're not supposed to touch women. And he said, I put her down 2 hours ago. You're the one who's still holding on to her.
Wow.
And so it's this idea, healing, it's not going to happen in an instant. It might. There's different parts of it. It's like, imagine a puzzle where there's a draw and a draw and a draw and a draw, and you might have to go around a few times, but it's about releasing. It's not about adding. You are buried. You may be the love of your life, and or the person in your life is actually buried in the ground, but you're buried by negative beliefs. You're buried by other people's things that you've adopted. And we need to get you out where most people are trying to put stuff on them. The healing is not on, it's out.
I agree with you. It's really, I totally agree with you. I liken it to the people carrying around backpacks with their traumas, their experiences, and you can almost feel the energy when a person who's carrying all that with them walks into a room. So why not heal and start letting things go out of the backpack, and that changes your whole life. It changes your energy. It frees
It's
you up.
interesting. I think a lot of things are decisions and choices, okay? You have the choice not to smoke cigarettes, you have a choice to go to the gym. And I used to think of it as a light switch. And so what I realized for myself is I was actually putting myself down in a way, because I was like, it's just a simple switch on the wall. Why can't I pick it up? And then I realized, no, it's not like a switch on the wall. It's like one of those things. Remember, they used to execute people by electric, and it's like, or Frankenstein, where it's like this big rusty switch that hasn't been used in 100 years, and you have to really push it up with all your might. And when I viewed it like that, I switched it up.
Makes a lot of sense. And it's definitely points to the need to heal, to let that stuff go. And what is the famous Bryan May tip for finding joy in life?
My tip is your people are your people. And if they're not your people, don't even worry about them. Stop concentrating on the gold. Stop concentrating on the dirt. Start concentrating on the gold or diamonds, depending on what country you're in. And really just, it's like in sales. The people that aren't your clients, don't worry about them. Take care of your clients. The people that don't think you're funny, don't worry about them. Certain people think, I love Andrew Dice Clay. Obviously, I was born in 1980. I mean, Andrew Dice Clay is not for everyone. He still packed out Madison Square Garden. Okay? I'm sure you could put on Netflix. Some people you're going to find funny, some people you're not. Stop concentrating on the guy who's not laughing. Start concentrating on the whole fucking crowd that is your fans and is laughing and is cheering you on and is supporting you. Stop focusing on the people that are never going to do business with you. You're never going to ask them for a favor, and they're never going to help you.
Makes so much sense. So much sense. Bryan, your story serves as an inspiration to those facing adversity, and it highlights that true success is not just about professional achievements, but about overcoming life's greatest challenges with courage and determination. Thank you for weaving together your sharp business acumen and deep spiritual wisdom to help men transcend their limiting beliefs, achieve meaningful transformation, and step fully into their most authentic selves. Your story serves as a testament to the fact that true transformation is possible through intentional, meaningful change. From my heart, I thank you for the wisdom and compassion you continue to share, guiding men toward healing, strength, and new meaning in their lives. What an extraordinary gift you are bringing to the world. Thank you again from my heart, and many blessings.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Grief and Rebirth. Remember, you can dive deeper into everything we've discussed by checking out the show notes and all past episodes at ireneweinberg.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Irene S. Weinberg on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and wherever you love to hang out online. Plus, we're on YouTube, so be sure to subscribe and never miss a video. For those of you listening, you'll find links to my 2 books, Good to the Last Drop and They Serve Bagels in Heaven, in the show notes. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see those books listed right above, so don't miss out. And here comes a special treat. If you sign up for Audible as a first-time user using my link, which you can find in the show notes, you can get They Serve Bagels in Heaven for free. And finally, people often ask me what I read, what I use, and what I recommend for healing and self-care. So I've carefully curated a compilation of those items to share with you. You can head over to kit.co/grief and rebirth to check them out. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, many blessings.